Good morning from a bright and sunny Cornwall in the middle of the county. Welcome to the latest Cornwall Astronomy Society's instructional videos. This time we're going to be looking at how to put up an equatorial mount. So it's going from this to this. We're here with one of our members, Sam, and what we're going to be doing is assembling a Skywatcher 3.2 mount and an EQ5 as well. So the first step is to extend the legs. So if you extend the legs on your side. Now, for the purposes of this video, north is in reality in that direction, but we're going to pretend that north is there. It's just so that our filming just isn't filming us all in shadow. So for the purposes of this video, north is in this direction. So we have the two tripods set up. The next step is to put on the attachment tray, or in Sam's case, the leg spreader. When you're putting these things out, a lot of mounts will come with a pin towards the front, or an indicator saying north, or possibly both. So you position the mount so the mount is facing north in that way. The next thing to do will be to attach either the accessory tray here, or in Sam's case the spreader plate. So we'll do that now a moment. The accessory tray, you just take the screws, they come up through there, and screw the plate on. The advantage is not only do you have a tray to put your eyepieces and pens and pencils and so on, it also stabilises the mount, gives it a lot more stability. So it's always advisable to put it on. In the case of the spreader plate, Sam, if you place that so the notches are against the legs, and then just work the screw up, and the idea is to screw that fairly tight at this stage, just so that the spreader plate is spreading the legs out as far as you can. That's it. The next stage is to level your tripod. A couple of reasons for doing that. Firstly, it makes sure that what you put on top of it will stay in balance, and you're going to minimise any opportunities for your whole kit to fall over. But also, if you always level the tripod and you keep the mount at the setting you used last time, you'll find that aligning it will be much quicker when you come to do it. Personally, I just use an app on a smartphone. Here we can see a little bubble level, and all you do is shorten and lengthen the legs until the bubble is smack bang in the middle, and whichever direction the bubble is in, if it's off centre, it's just a case of shortening the legs that are in that direction. So we'll shorten this one on this side, and then this one here, and that's looking pretty good. So moving to Sam's tripod, this is the EQ5, and you can see the little north symbol there on this tripod. So Sam's shortening the length that's over here, and the bubble is moving very close to being centered, and I think that's very, very close, so we can quite happily leave it there. So we next move on to putting the mount head on top of the tripod. There's been quite a bit of discussion on the internet and various forums and what have you about the need to level mounts. At Cornwall Astronomy Society, we certainly advocate it. Apart from the couple of reasons I've just given, there's also questions around whether the balance shifts as the mount moves around during your observing session, and of course the argument, if it does shift, that it might actually put more wear on your gears than when it's all properly balanced. Take your pick. I say at Cornwall Astronomy Society we advocate that you do level the tripod before you do anything else. So the next stage is to put the mount on the top of the tripod. With the 3.2 we can just put it straight on. In Sam's case, because we've used the leg spreader and pulled that up tight, that will now need to be slackened off because the mount needs to screw into the small bolt that comes up through the foot of the tripod. This is the EQ5 mount, and it comes with two screws of different sizes, which go in here and here, and you use it to adjust the latitude. So to start with, there's a pointer on the side here with a scale running 0 to 90, and what you do is you adjust the mount angle till it's roughly on the latitude that you're observing from. Just a quick tip, if you are higher than 45 degrees latitude, then the long screw goes in the back and the short screw goes in the bottom. If you're observing from below 45 degrees latitude, it's the other way around. So with this one, we've now got this screwed in fairly well, so it's a case of slackening the screw back a bit and just make sure that you can still rotate that. But until this screw is in safely, you need to be holding the mount head all the time to make sure nothing falls off. So if we move to Sam's now, that's it, it's in, and holding the mount all the time. Screw it up. That's it, now back it off just a little bit. Back to the screw back down. Just a little bit, that's it, just to make sure that the head can rotate a bit. So yes, exactly like that, that's good. Okay, so the next stage in the case with the spreader plate is to secure that back up again a fair way. So don't screw that totally tight yet. And that's good, so the mount head is now firmly secured to your tripod, and the next stage now will be to add in the counterweight bar. So the counterweight bars are fairly straightforward. On some models they will come as a telescopic attachment coming out of the tripod, or the mount head itself. In the case of these two mounts, it's just a case of screwing them both into the screw hole at the front and tightening that up. So if you want to carry on with your Sam. And make sure that's nice and tight. On Sam's model you see that this bit here is actually separate, and that screws up in to lock the counterweight bar in place. Before you add the weight, it's good to make sure that your latitude adjustment bolts here and here are tight to make sure the mount won't flop forwards or back. Once you've got that in place, you can then go ahead and add the mount's counterweight mechanism like this. Okay, we have weight here. Surprisingly enough, there is a right way and a wrong way of putting them on. First of all, remove the end screw, which is an important bit of kit, which we'll explain in a moment why. So take the end screw off, and then just slide the counterweight up to the top of the mount and secure it with the screw, and return the end piece. Now, the right way and wrong way of putting these on is you'll find on your counterweight the hole on one end is larger than the hole on the other. All you need to remember is that the large hole goes on the bottom, so that if the weight moves down, then it does actually cover the screw, but the screw is there to make sure that if the weight comes loose, it doesn't just drop off onto the ground. Make sure that's nice and tight, and the end cap is back on again. And you can put the weight up towards the top, so that at this stage the mount isn't any more unbalanced than it absolutely needs to be. So screw that one in nice and tight, and we're there. We now move to the more exciting bit, which is adding the telescope to the assembly. Simply a case of bringing the telescope up to the mount, screwing in the screw, and at this stage, yes, just tighten in the locking screw as well, just to make sure that the telescope does not fall out of the tube. We will certainly have to adjust the position of the telescope a little bit later on in our setup. Moving to Sam's, one thing we'll point out here is before you put that on the mount, Sam, it's just making sure that your head is the right way around. you should normally find that the locking screw will go on the right hand side here and the secure screw here. So we'll tighten the clutch again. Carry on, Sam. Holding the telescope all the time to make sure it doesn't drop off. Okay, is that nice and tight?
Yes.
It's always a good idea to make sure you keep hold of the telescope and or the counterweight bar until you know that the clutches are firmly secured. Particularly if you have a heavy telescope at this stage, you might find if you take your hands away that the whole unit will fall over like that, and then it might topple the mount. So make sure the clutches are fully engaged before you take your hands away. We next move to balancing your telescope once you've got your eyepieces and everything in, to make sure that it's balanced nicely. Sam, so first off, if we undo the right ascension clutch, and a couple notes of good practice. First off, only ever have one clutch on done at a time, not both, and then it's just tilted over, keeping hold of the most expensive part of the kit, which in this case is the camera. Sorry, in this case it's the telescope. And how does this move? Does it? Yeah, it's moving a little bit, so it's telescope heavy. So what we want to do is just move the counterweight slightly down the counterweight bar. Right, and now how does that balance? And that's gone counterweight heavy. So we need to move it a little way back, probably about halfway back to where you had it. That'll be it. Now how's that looking? And yeah, so we just touch it. Still perhaps a fraction counterweight heavy, so move the counterweight a tiny bit further up. I'd say it's probably about a thumb's width. There we go. And yes, that's looking good. Okay, so if we return that to centre and lock the clutch again. Okay, we're going to introduce another of our members now. This is Fred, who's going to talk to us for a moment about some good practice when putting these bits of kit together.
Hello everyone. Right, the first thing is always keep hold, when you're balancing, make sure that you hold either side, your telescope, your camera. The most expensive thing, as Gareth said on there, you want to protect all the time. It is possible for this to run away with you, or something to bang into the legs or the motor. Okay. When you've finished balancing and you want to straighten everything up, the term is actually called counterweight down. Okay, this is the counterweight bar. If this is straight down, you can even use a level on here if you wanted to. But counterweight down is always the starting position, and that's where you would lock the clutch back up again. Okay. Again, when we've now balanced the RA side of it, and we've got that down. The next thing is to balance the tube, the optical tube itself. To do this, well, put it to one side. In fact, I'll put it to that side. Okay. Have a look which side your motors are on. This one, the motors are in the middle here, but sometimes you'll have motors on sticking out the sides. So make sure that you put the put it to one side 90 degrees, whichever side you haven't got the motors. Lock the clutch back up again, the RA clutch, and now we can deal with the optical tube side. Carry on. Mm-hmm. If we let go of the declination, this is one of the reasons why you always hold on to the tube, because if I don't, it'll completely run away with me. Okay. This one here, it's obviously objective lens heavy, so what I'm going to do is lock this back up again, one at a time, one clutch at a time, okay, so that nothing can go wrong. And I'm now going to slide this optical tube down a little bit. I'm not going to go nuts with it, do it a bit at a time, and I'm going to do the same again. Lock the RA clutch, feel this, it's better, but it's still tube heavy. If I've got a camera on the end of it, Obviously it won't be quite so heavy at the front. A little bit there. There's 2 locking screws on the on this particular system. Okay, we've got one here which is your main locking screw for the deck, and we've also got a safety one at the back here on the Skywatcher things. Okay, so lock the RA again. Let's have a look, and that is much better. Slightly objective lens heavy, which is absolutely fine. Okay, and back to CWD, counterweight down position, and make sure everything's locked. This the tube nice and straight onto the onto it, pointing north.
The good news is we're very nearly there now. You'll recall earlier on in this video that we did leave some of the adjustments loose, and that's because we're now locking those into place. So Sam here is adjusting the azimuth adjustment bolts, which is moving the mount left and right. So once you've got Polaris where you need to be in the polar scope, as far as the left and right is concerned, are you there, Sam?
Yes.
You then make sure those are nice and tight, and you can also then tighten up the spreader plate nut. And then the last stage will be to make the adjustments here with the altitude adjustment plates. So again, you move these in and out until Polaris is exactly where you need it to be in your polar scope. We will be covering polar alignment in a lot more detail in a future video, but the way we've shown you through this video so far, that will at least get to a stage where you can do some nice observing. Thanks very much for watching the video. What we thought we'd do to finish up with is, if you haven't been used to seeing an equatorial mount in the past, you may have found it being quite complicated, quite a lengthy time procedure to put together. Once you've done it a few times, it isn't like that at all. It's quite straightforward, no problem at all. What we thought we would do is we'd have Fred demonstrating putting an equatorial mount up from scratch. For the purpose of this video, we're pretending that north is in this direction. Fred, over to you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Fred. Well done.
Thank you very much.
Okay, so how long did that take?
Well, from installation, that was just 5 minutes, and then with the polar alignment, that was just an extra 45 seconds. So
Polar alignment, I was pretending, obviously. It can take a good 5-10 minutes sometimes to get really good polar alignment, but the better the polar alignment, the better your pointing is.
Thanks very much for watching the video. We hope you find it of useful. Please feel free to leave us comments. If there's anything you think we've got wrong, then we'll respond to you by all means. In the meantime, watch out for us at our webpage, which is www.cornwallas.org, and please have a look at us on Facebook. Thanks very much. Bye now.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
bye bye.